In this video series, we're going to talk about how to write impact letters and the different types of impact letters that, with your therapist, you might decide to write to your son or daughter. Let me first introduce the team.
Hi, I'm Maddie Liebing, and I'm the clinical director. I'm a psychologist and marriage and family therapist and work with both programs.
Hey, I'm Rachel. I'm a primary therapist for the Juniper Canyon program.
Hello, I'm Ronnie. I'm a primary therapist for Juniper Canyon as well.
Hi, I'm Steve Kern. I'm a therapist with Legacy. I am a licensed clinical social worker.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm a substance use counselor. I'm the infield therapist for Legacy, and I do some work for Juniper Canyon as well.
I'm Jake. I'm also a substance use counselor, and I'm a primary therapist at Legacy.
Devin Nanton, primary therapist and substance use counselor over at Legacy Outdoor Adventures.
Hi, I'm David Weeder. I'm a primary therapist at Legacy. I am a clinical mental health counselor.
And I'm Troy Faddis. I am a clinical supervisor for both programs at Legacy Outdoor Adventures and Juniper Canyon. And I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Welcome to our video about impact letters. So let's talk about the four types of impact letters, or the four styles of impact letters. Because impact letters have a long history in treatment programs, particularly in wilderness therapy settings. And over time, they've changed and had variety and have probably improved, but it also is an individualized treatment intervention. It's one of those things that we use to meet the client where the client is at, which is why it's still important for us to understand the different types of impact letters that you might want to write and how to write each one and how to determine with your therapist which one it is that you should be writing. So let's just start talking about the traditional style, or sometimes it's also, we call it the interventionist style of treatment of impact letters. So historically, impact letters, clients typically are coming in during a pre-contemplative stage. And in fact, for many of our clients, there are external reasons why they came. Their parents found pressure points, and there was a ultimatum, a intervention often happened to help them make movement to get here. And when they come in a space where they haven't come to that conclusion on their own, or have had time to process the conclusion as it was being made with them, they may not know exactly all the reasons why they're here, and they may even resist those reasons for why they are here. And in many ways, that was why a traditional impact letter was used. Through a 12-step lens, it was helping them with step one. The principle behind step one is honesty, helping our clients learn to face the truth. Because when we use substances and other things as well, like anxiety can do the same thing, we have a distortion. We believe, for example, that we over anticipate the rewards of the use, and we underestimate the cost of our use. And an impact letter can help us have to face what the true impact on our own lives and the life of our family and our friends and other systems that we've been a part of, what type of impact that's actually had. And an impact letter can help them learn about those things from your perspective. From a model of change perspective, they're in pre-contemplation, and this is a tool that we can use that can help move them from pre-contemplation to the contemplation stage, where they're saying, I don't have a problem, everyone else thinks I have one too, well, let me consider that I might have one. Just by simply asking the question, is the status quo okay? Or is there anything else that you would like to change?
Yeah, and I think the hard thing is that so many of our clients think that they're not hurting anyone, and it's just they're just using, and it doesn't have an impact on anyone else. And so I'd like to hear from some of the other therapists about maybe experiences that you've had about how this can be effective when you're trying to get the client engaged in their own treatment.
So the common fallacy of every addict alcoholics is that my actions, attitudes, and behaviors didn't affect anyone but myself. So why is everyone like having a hard time? You know, I'm just fine. things are good. And what they don't recognize is that their actions, attitudes, and behaviors affect everyone who loves them. And there's a reason why they like choose to ignore this, is because if I start thinking about how like my actions affected my loved ones, then it's hard to go on a path of self-destruction. Because one of the primary challenges of addiction is that a push away from true relationships. Because in order to have a relationship with my substance or my struggle, I have to push away from the people that I care about. Because if they saw this, if they were affected by it, it'd be too hard to go down this path of self-destruction. So I push away from all the relationships that really matter in order to have this false relationship with the substance. And so one of the things that we're looking to help our clients to see in the impact letters is that despite the fact that you've been trying to push away, we have been a part of this, and we have seen it, and we are worried about you, and that we have always been here, and help them to see that the family, that relationship is still present, and it needs some work, and that that your fears and your concerns are legitimate, and that they should be considered, because it's one of the things that is going to help our clients to move past the addictive process.
I was just going to add on like another layer on that is some of our ladies, we do this style of an impact letter for, and it's not always surrounding addiction. So I think a lot of the times we have this layer and incorporation of they'll name some experiences with substances that really hurt their family or their system. And then there's also just layers of behavioral experiences that also, right, we use this for that as well. And then the other piece I'll say is, and I think Devin sort of mentioned this, but a lot of the times our clients get to have a voice for a long time before this happens, right? They get to say their perspectives and how much their family has hurt them and all of these things. And so I think the way I like to frame it is like, this is for your voice. These are for the family's voices to be heard. And sometimes this is the first time that really intensive language is used of, hey, you're not just a victim in this, and actually you need to take some accountability. So I really love that when it's kind of black and white for some clients.
Yeah, I think in the models we do talk about it as a 12-step type of thing, but it's also like anxiety or depression can have just as much of a blind spot for us as our substance use. And impact letters from the same perspective, it's about problem identification and making sure our clients are identifying the problems that the whole family system sees and not just themselves. So it's just their cover story, but it's the family story, and starting to find solutions.
And the other, go ahead.
I was just going to add, absolutely. And, one of the things that happens is that the family has been living in this chaos and drama for a long time, and it almost becomes commonplace and comfortable. And that the impact letters, one of the side effects and benefits of it is that it gives a chance to take a look at what the last 6, 9 months, year, 3 years, multiple years, like have been like for the family, and process their emotions and the impact that having this chaotic and dramatic element in the family has affected, how it has affected them as individuals and them as a family. It becomes easy to make the person in the family who is struggling the center of the family, because for a lot of parents, there's this unspoken motto of like, we're only as happy as our unhappiest child. Getting the family to recognize it, getting yourself to look at, how have you been affected by your child's struggles, and being able to present that is one of the major steps in healing this family system.
Yeah, which is so common when it comes to these perpetual crisis situations, whether addiction or self-harm or just like compulsive lying, any maladaptive and addictive behavior creates such ripples and impact within the family system, yet the impact on everybody else often goes unaddressed. The utility of impact letters is like that level of catharsis and transparent communication for the other members in the system, because there's always so much concern about, if I am honest and transparent with my child, how are they going to react to that in the context of their maladaptive behavior? If I am honest about this, are they going to go, storm off and get in their car and drive under the influence? Are they going to go upstairs and self-harm even more? Are they going to restrict their food even more? Are they going to have a suicide attempt? All these different things are going through the mind of the parent, and oftentimes their impact, their emotional experience just goes completely unsaid or unacknowledged.
What I appreciate about what you're adding, Jake, is this idea of, this may be the first time I have a real conversation about the struggles, because of the fear factor. A lot of parents will tend to pull back and not say everything, because they're used to living in caution and in fear, and worry about how my child will react. They're in a safe place right now. They have support of everyone around them, the team. This is the chance to have a real conversation, to start building the foundation of the relationship you want to have with your child moving forward. And so it's not about holding back and being cautious in the impact letter. It's about letting them see how this has been affecting me, and to see how to address what you need to address in order to start rebuilding this relationship with the family.
I think we're starting to move a little bit into that area that overlaps with the next style of impact letters. And so I want to just make a comment about this style of impact letter. When we determine that this is the type of impact letter that we want to use and that we want to write, we do this type of impact letter earlier in the program. We want to have them within week 2, have some sample letters written and evaluated with your therapist. And around week 3, we want to use this kind of impact letter early on, because they're still in pre-contemplation. We're catching them in pre-contemplation, addressing some of the fallacies, helping accentuate some of the consequences, and helping them move into contemplation. And that's what this style of letter is for.
And I want to jump in before we move to motivational, that exactly what you're saying, Troy, is that also what happens when they read this to their peers is that it helps to let them, they can't hide so much, because when people come in, they give their narrative, they give their story. If this is what, my parents are so mean to me and all of these things have happened, and they have this whole story. And I think what happens when they read these impact letters in front of their peers, it brings reality to this. I have accountability for this too. And so the peer culture supports the change that can happen in moving from pre-contemplation to contemplation by asking questions and by saying, calling them on their stuff instead of co-signing their BS. And I think that that's an important component, especially of this particular one, especially near the beginning of the program. So they can't continue to just represent themselves as a victim and not take accountability.
When they're reading these by themselves, it's easy to have a block, to go to hear the same things that they've always heard, or resist the same way that they've always resisted. When they have their peers hear the parents' words, there's no block, at least not a natural one, because there's no history. And when their peers reflect that back to them, they're more likely to hear accurately what you're saying.
I think an important part of the process that you're speaking there to, Maddie, is that when clients come into the group over the first couple weeks, they build a relationship with their peers. Through presenting themselves and the story of who they are in a certain way. And then when they get their impact letters, often their peers find out that they've been lying, essentially, and it breaks down some of that relationship they've built up. And then you get this opportunity to work on healing that relationship. So it starts this practice of relationship repair that we take throughout the wilderness therapy process.
And develop a relationship. that's based on honesty and not on superficiality.
What I would add is looking at a traditional interventionist style, we're typically using it when we have a client who has blocks. So this idea of heroin, cocaine have really been affecting me, but I really haven't had any problems with marijuana or alcohol, looking at reservations. So having them look at the whole story and see specifically, like, if there's a reservation around alcohol, tell some alcohol stories, right? Because what they've been trying to do is look for a backdoor. How do I hold on to this substance? How do I hold on to this old way of being? How do I hold on to this old behavior in order to, continue to function with that? And what we want to do with the traditional interventionist style is look at challenging that thought process and those reservations and helping them to move past it.
I think it's helpful for parents to know, although this is not the intention of an impact letter, but sometimes the greatest impact may be on someone else's child because there's not that block that's there. And so they're hearing someone else read a letter and they can say, boy, I can imagine my mom or my dad saying the same thing. And there isn't that natural resistance because it's not their mom and it's not their dad. And they may actually have an opening to experiencing what you may experience. So just know that your son or daughter may have that experience and your letter may have that experience on someone else.